Dummy switch pod. The boys are back. How are you,
Yes,
Chris?
sir. Yes, sir. Coders. Hey, look, me, I'm good. Can't complain. Disappointed though, for South Africa. But yeah, look, we're good. We're good, man. How's it going your side?
Good myself. Good myself. The Dan Carters of podcasting here to give you our opinions,
Hmm.
our flagrant takes, and of course, feel free to leave your takes, church announcements. Obviously, you can find us here, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the socials. And before we get
Yeah.
on to that, before we get on to the URC final, the Bulls losing, I was in attendance actually myself. I've got a few things to say about that. But before we get there, let's talk box. Bowen Fenter
Yeah.
called up. For myself, probably the most I've seen him play with was maybe about 4 years ago when he was at the Cheetahs. And then
Cheetahs.
occasionally when he did play against South African side. Solid player, Scottish international in February while he's eligible, which I'm sure they would have picked him up. And
Mm.
he's taken up his place with injuries there.
Yeah. You know what? I think it's a classic situation where, you know, we're looking at what the resources that we have. We say, no, 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 we're not giving this one away. So we gotta get him in. I think he's good. He's a good enough player. I think they've also seen some things in him,
Yeah.
So I'm
But
not,
is
I'm
he
not, I'm
not
not
next
really
man
complaining.
up? Is he not next man up? If you think who would go, I can't off the top of my head think of the next guy that's gonna go. I mean, at the
Yeah.
Stormers, who have you got there? You've got C and so Mark at the Sharks.
Mm,
Who have you got?
Nkunu and Che, but
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
it's an injury enforced thing. I think Mfunu is injured if I'm not mistaken. And then Lions,
yeah,
who is it? Then you look Bulls, who is it? You're now digging
mm,
deeper and deeper.
yeah,
You're
next man
digging to
up.
guys that aren't starting.
Yeah. So next man up for sure. But I still think it's also an element of saying, no, we can't just give away our resources like that. That's expropriation without compensation right there. If there ever was such a thing in rugby. But
Yeah,
yeah, look, I'm not against this. And I mean, like we even said last week or the past couple of weeks with the Springbok squad selection is that it's a squad, and people are going to get cut. It gets whittled down. There's movement, incoming, outgoing. People get injured,
yeah,
so it's the build up now.
yeah,
To the tests. So still a long way to go. He's got to obviously prove himself in the environment and earn his place, I suppose. But yeah, look, not really. No, I won't cry, and I won't be mad at that
yeah.
selection.
If we look his situation, it was Mfunu is injured, Steenekamp is injured. Other
Mm,
players released and injured. Peter Steph du Toit, Hanekom, Trocky. There's also some funny release thing when he's signing for a new club. So I don't know whether it's like he can't get injured before he technically clears over to Ulster side, or
yeah,
it's there's something more technical there. And the players that have been released without being on the injured list, both Hendricks are brothers, Hewan Horn, Renzo Duplessis, and Makaza.
yeah,
Obviously, the most interesting is going to be the Hendricks brothers.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, you know,
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy to say it, but you know, I don't know them, but it feels like I know them. They look
yeah,
like you know them from school or you know them from down the road. They're those type of guys.
yeah,
But for me, they both haven't necessarily been at the level that you're expecting.
yeah,
And I would especially say Jordan Hendricks, especially coming in at fly half. It's like I don't know. I feel like he plays better at center and he plays better at fullback, but
yeah,
there's better centers and there's better fullbacks. At
yeah.
the same time, the game plan that he's been put in is just I feel at the same time
What
when he
game
was
plan?
playing 10, yes, exactly. When he was playing 10 at the Lions, Hamba surpassed him then. So I can't, I can't, one thing I can't do is make a case for him to be a national 10 if, you know,
Yeah,
guys are edging you or guys are pushing you at a provincial or union level where it's like you need to be clear cut to be in the box unless there's special circumstances and guys being fast tracked like
Yeah,
Lorenzo
and
Duplessis who've been sent back home.
yeah, and also at the same time, it's when you get the opportunity, what are you doing with it? And
Yeah,
besides game plan or no game plan aside, just his own personal performance, the ABCs, and just being able to influence the game a bit better. It just hasn't been there, to set that direction, to steer the ship, So yeah,
yeah,
it'll be difficult. Yeah, maybe you'll get away with it against your Italy, Georgia, but bigger picture, no,
yeah.
there's
I
still
mean, he
some
did
work to be
against
done.
Wales. Yeah,
Yeah, so bigger picture, still work to be done. So I can understand that one. Jaden as well, he hasn't been at that level that got him in there in the first place. For
yeah,
me, he hasn't been there. It's just he's shown glimpses, but it just hasn't been enough. So at the same time, it's also it's a learning curve. It's a lesson. That you can't let the form dip. The Makaza one, I'm just gutted for him. I would
yeah,
have, man, it was going to be a good story, but you never know. There's a lot of things that can happen still.
yeah. For now, the fairy
So
tale is over.
yeah, but for now it's over. He got the kid, he
Yeah,
got the kid.
the yellow kit,
He got the yellows, dog. He got the
the pick
yellows.
and
So
pay.
got that PNP yellow, so
Yeah,
and then also Renzo, I think there's just a lot of loose forwards in there, and maybe they were looking at him maybe like to sort of be like a maybe to fill in a Kwacha type of role, because of his intensity,
yeah,
and also his work rate. But yeah, look, there's obviously work that needs to be done. So not too like like we always say, quarters. It's still just the squad.
yeah.
There's matches that are going to be played. The match day 23 that's going to be named. Matches are played. People are going to get injured. There's going to be movement.
Yeah, I mean
So
that's why I'm also not big on trying to predict lineups because
mm,
you never. I mean, especially in this group because there's so many players, and then you never know what's going to happen week of, and so on and so forth. There's
yes,
also guys like Damian Willems who's still unavailable through suspension, so there's really no point in trying to select a lineup. There were guys talking
yeah,
about Makaza getting capped against the Barbarians, and look, so yeah, we get closer, it's almost there, and then we'll see
mm,
from there. We'll see when they name that official list.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, moving on, some news, some transfer news. Stormers, Ruan Ackerman,
Mm,
he's on their radar and he's looking to come back to South Africa. About a year ago, he was out of well, contract came to an end, and it was the Lions were actually pushing for him. A few other clubs, I think the Bulls were involved there, but the Lions
mm,
had the edge. He said he wanted to come back to South Africa, and then last minute changed his mind, restarted with Gloucester. Seems like the same thing is happening now. I mean, obviously, this time maybe club finances and so on. Now they're more willing
yeah.
to let you go. And the same thing with him. He wants to come back home. So the Stormers
Mm.
it seems that they've got the inside track on him.
Yeah, I think, look, if the Stormers could bag him, I think it'll be a good addition, you know.
Yeah,
It'll be a good addition to their squad because I think they have been on a serious sort of recruitment drive, in terms of the youth that they're looking to bring in. But there's a one
but the
thing
youth
bringing
you're
them
only
in,
gonna see that in 5 years.
yeah. But that's what I'm saying. It's one thing to bring them in. It's another thing playing the guys. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think for them, if they do pull this one off, it'll be a good acquisition. He's bringing that experience again, playing that side,
Yeah,
the different type of rugby. So yeah, maybe I think it may be a good one for the Stormers. To be interesting to see how he will fit in there as well. But I think he should be okay. Yeah, I
yeah.
don't. I think it would make sense for him to go there. Uh, Bulls too many, Sharks too many loose forwards. The Lions they can produce guys that just come out of and
Yeah, I
do the
still would have
job.
taken him. Still would have taken.
But obviously he's your old
Yeah,
boy, so yes. But yeah, I think Stormers make sense. I think it would
yeah.
make sense for him. Yeah, Mm.
Yeah, although the fans are calling for his father, not him, they're calling for the father. Whenever someone says, "Where's your father?" I mean,
Where's your dad, man? Like,
yeah,
we see you, but where's dad,
yeah. Other transfer news: Angelo Davis, he was linked
Mm.
with the Lions,
Oh,
and then he signed. Edwin Cater, he signed just before that,
yes.
so they've seen that they've brought in two wings to replace Edwin. And
Yeah.
like I guess they'll hope one will pan out. Edwin Cater, good player, but injury. He arrived on crutches. Angelo Davis, same good player, different player to Edwin.
Yeah.
He can come. I mean, both can come in and start immediately. But
Yes.
obviously, Edwin being that bulk level, and then Chris Smith, he's on the radar right now. I think they're in advanced talks, but he hasn't signed yet.
I think that would be a good one if you guys had to get Chris Smith. Um, for me, I think that would be a good one. The two wingers coming in, for that's really that's interesting, because you could have gone,
Mm,
yeah, look, out of, yes, as much as Edwin Cater, you know, if we've seen him deliver some, good performances, but he hasn't been that. I would have picked Davids, yes, and then the rest of the money looked for somebody else, in a different position, that can
mm.
be a game breaker. Uh, it- it- yeah, it's just I don't know. The two wingers, it's the two for one. I like,
Yeah,
uh, you know, but it just goes to show how much of an impact or how big of a gap Edwin van der Merwe is leaving in there, that they're hedging their bets to say 50-50, whichever works out, So
yeah,
I can understand that, but at the same time, would have thought that, bring in somebody, even if it's maybe a journeyman type of experienced player that's played in Europe, played maybe to come and bring something different as
yeah.
well to the group, to help the team sort of get to a consistent performance level and get to knockouts. But yeah, I guess
Yeah,
they
we
know what
patch,
they're doing.
patch, patch with
Mm.
players, but we need a marquee signing. We need an international player. Speaking of that, Jake White, after they lost, came out and said that the Bulls need more international players. For someone that's got Andre Pollard and potentially Serpentine arriving, for someone that's brought back how many players from Europe? He's brought back so
Hey,
many players from Europe. He's brought back players that Immelman even threw him away. Dylan Smith,
yeah.
you don't even see him. He's so
Hmm.
many guys. Marcel
Mm.
Coetzee even brought him back. Many of those guys, they had left.
No, no, you must
They have
stop with
come
the
back.
excuses. You must stop.
And he still says
Uh-uh.
he needs more internationals. What that says
Uh-uh.
to me is, number one, you're shifting the blame away from yourself.
Yes.
You're blaming your tools as a workman. And the second thing is, how do your players feel that they've just lost this game and you're saying, I need better players? How
Yeah.
must they feel even when I think it was the quarterfinal where the clerk had a breakout game and he still
Yeah.
said, yeah, but I wish Arkansas was here. So even when they're doing well, you want to replace them. And then when they do badly, you want to replace them.
Yeah,
So
no.
I don't know. What are your feelings on that?
No, that's why I say you must stop with the excuses. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. You can't always be saying. I mean, let's just look at that. Look at that pool starting 15. The Northern Transvaal starting 15. The or match day 23. What you'll see there is that if you look, I think just off the top of my head, there should be about at least about 8 guys that are Springboks or have been or kept Springboks or guys that are, earmarked to become
Yeah,
Springboks that are in the squad. So those guys are good enough. It's the fact of the matter is that you got hit and you got hit very badly. You know what I mean? And now you're saying, no, no,
mm,
but And like you say, you can't be the workman blaming the tools. You can't say, no, I am buying a number 5 span. I'm buying this 32 set, the toolbox, and then afterwards you say, no, this toolbox isn't good enough.
yeah,
I need a 164 set. No, it can't be. You must say, look, we got it wrong. We didn't. say whatever, take the responsibility as the coach, and as the coaching
And
group to say,
if
hey,
we're being
listen,
honest, they have. I mean, both supporters can say that Sharks are the one with the riches, but
no,
I think they are the ones with. I mean, the Sharks have the box, but in terms of the amount of players that they sign, if you look at their team, Volko Low, they've brought him back from overseas and international.
yes,
Corbus Visa, they've brought him back, although not an international. He's in the box squad and he will be capped this year.
yes,
Baku van Staden, he was gone, they brought him back. Gutier
mm,
gone, brought back. Hussein gone, brought back. Held Foster gone, brought back.
yeah,
Vinny LaRue gone, brought back.
mm,
Even on the bench, you got Eko van der Merwe, the same thing. Hannes Kirsten,
mm,
the same thing.
yes.
So, I mean, that's a good 6 or 7 guys that they've brought back. And you're talking about bringing more international players and experienced players. How many do you want? How many do you need?
Yeah, that's the thing, because they're the ones that have been building that roster. You know what I mean? You'd
Yeah,
have expected in terms of how the Bulls, where they started in terms of building that roster. I think for the past maybe 2 seasons, we say, no, they're building that roster, building that depth, to have, the competition to be able to
yeah,
to challenge. Look, it worked. They were in the final twice, but they're not
mm,
getting the result. So now, is it the players really? Because you were in the final. You,
yeah.
you know what I mean? With those same tools that you say you need better tools, they got you there, you
And if you
know?
had won, you wouldn't be complaining in the same way, I
Thank
guess.
you. Thank you.
So
That's what I was getting to, is
you would
that
have said, "Look what I've done with what I have." You would have been,
Bayranki. Yeah,
yeah,
that's what they say in Loftus. Bayranki. You see, because that's what was going to happen. He was going to say, yeah, look,
yeah,
we've been working on this plan for so long. We've built this depth, and that's why now we're champions. Now you're not champions. You missed out 2 years in a row, one at home, one away. There's an issue. There's
yeah,
something that's not working, something that is
yeah. I
just
think
not
it's three
clicking
finals altogether. Three finals
yeah,
altogether they've missed out.
when it needs to work out, something's not happening. And coach, I'm sorry. You have to take that one on the chin and say, look, I didn't prepare the boys well enough. I didn't. My plan
Yeah,
wasn't solid enough. My winning ways was not a winning way this weekend.
mm,
At least say that, because now how you expect the change room, you're going to lose the change room. I mean, and then I'm going to go back and say that's why you're not going to, because the guys are not going to die for you, because you're going to turn around and say, I need better. You know,
yeah,
it's no, it can be sort of. I don't see that as a motivational sort of tool or whatever to say that you need better. All that does is just it's going to make guys despondent. Not guys not want to perform for you. They'll just come there, collect the paycheck, and just play. And yeah, we win, we win. If you don't, you don't, because
yeah.
you're you're starting to create a toxic environment now. Because all of a sudden we're not good enough. You know,
Mm.
come on, come on. But
Yeah,
anyway,
let's go into that game.
mm,
Backdrop to it, Gibson Park announced day off that he was out. Hanocom we knew the week before,
yeah,
and like I said, I was fortunate enough to attend the game, and I had attended Munster versus Leinster earlier in the season. And
mm,
let me just tell you something. It was a much bigger occasion, Munster versus Leinster at Croke Park, than what this Bulls game was.
yeah,
Um,
wow,
Granted, it was raining, but still, it always rains. So, in terms of even arriving in the city, the jerseys that you see or whatever, you're only seeing these things right by where the stadium is. You're not seeing a buzz around town. You're not seeing, this
yeah,
wasn't the major spectacle that you would think it would be, which
yeah,
was a bit disappointing in my opinion. I mean, I think it comes from Leinster and their disappointment over cup competitions and not winning
yes.
there. So it didn't feel like the grand final. It didn't have
Mm.
that feeling. It didn't, and I
It had
think
a
also
league
what added,
fixture.
yeah, and then what also added to that was the fact that it wasn't competitive
Mm-mm.
from the beginning. It wasn't competitive, and then on top of
Nah.
that, the Bulls also just played like it was a regular. There was a
Hey.
regular fixture. It wasn't. It wasn't. They didn't come there looking any different than a normal away fixture.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, it didn't look like watching it on the telly. It didn't look like these guys had that intensity. That this is a final. You know what I mean? This is
Yeah,
backs against the wall. Nobody's giving us a chance against Leinster, etc., etc. It's almost as if they were like, "Hey, look, we made it again, so let's just be up and let's let's see, and
yeah,
their let's see was bad, man, because they were getting manhandled. Where have you seen Bulls players
yeah,
getting manhandled the way that they were getting manhandled this weekend? Those guys, they got beat, bro. Like, imagine you're getting beaten like that, like your pride is already dented. Then afterwards, then your coach says, "No, I need better." Yo, like, I'd be
yeah,
finished, man. And on top of that, it just didn't seem like there was a plan. They're kicking too long, too deep. You
yeah,
could see, yes, they wanted to. They were looking for that field possession, but it wasn't pressure.
yeah. They
You
weren't
know,
finding grass as well.
yeah, it wasn't pressure being applied onto Leinster. It was just simply kicking the ball away, and they had all the time in the world. Teddy Pendergrass. I mean, is it Teddy? No, but Pendergrass, and you know,
Yeah,
and he was playing them tunes, man. He was running the
yeah,
shows like it is disappointing, honestly, for a final. It really was disappointing for
yeah.
this. Yeah, it really was. And that's why I say the coach has got to look at himself, and say he didn't put the measures in place. There wasn't clarity in what they wanted to do. And even second off, there wasn't any difference. There was no change, you know?
Yeah, even when they did have a bit more possession. But for me, I mean, from the beginning, the scrum was supposed to be their advantage. And it's something that you would have thought they could lean on. Unfortunately, this is one area where I do feel like, okay, the ref did kind of,
Yes,
put them off in that Porter was scrumming
yes,
inwards. But at the
I
same
agree with
time,
you.
Vessels also couldn't handle his man, which
Yeah.
again, he's done well from where he was. He's done
Mhm.
well this season. But then now you're just seeing a different level. You're seeing a cup final level. You're seeing someone else that's up for it. I mean, we saw
Yeah.
him at Lucid, I think against Australia, he did okay. But now
Yeah.
you're really seeing levels, and I think that's a concern for him. It was a concern. Then he seemed to have picked up his play. He's doing better. But then now when you're seeing it again, especially at this moment, he didn't look good at Lucid.
Mm-mm. Yeah, it didn't look good at all. And look, Curtis, I agree with you here. There's some, and it's been throughout the URC, some questionable refereeing decisions, definitely, you
Yeah,
know. But at the same time, we can't always look at the ref. You need to give yourself a chance. And the Bulls
yeah.
didn't give themselves a chance. They really didn't. So we can, yes, you can nitpick and say, yeah, okay, look, yes, Vessel's not his best not his best scrummaging performance, but you'll learn from that, definitely. He can get better. But and there's a lot of players that they'll take learnings
Yeah.
from this experience. But at the same time, like I say, you got to give yourself a chance, and they didn't give themselves a chance. They
They
didn't.
didn't give
You
themselves a
know.
chance. Number one, they didn't have go forward ball. The meters, and I mean, I guess this goes to Jacques
Yo.
Nienhammer being that defensive guy, that defensive genius. But Bulls were shut down. They couldn't make that go forward ball. Their forwards seemed ineffective. I mean, when you
Mm.
see Conan and those guys making the meters, they were. I mean, even the first try was just a. I mean, it's a maul that kind of disintegrates, and then it's just a pick and go. You can't even
Boom.
stop. You can't even stop that. So I mean, the advantage is to them in the scrum. Go forward, they're getting it. You can't seem to go forward. Then for me, it's issues like kickoff. We're in their half. Foster gives away a penalty, hand in the guy's face. You also need to give yourself a chance. And so that's the same thing that we spoke about discipline going into it. I
Discipline.
understand, fine, the guy is holding on to you, whatever. But at that stage, it's 7-0 down. You're in their half. You're gonna get the
And
possession back. They're gonna kick it. You're gonna get the possession back.
yeah, and you know that you're away from home, hometown
Yeah,
decisions. Don't do that. Don't put yourself in
yeah,
that position. Don't put your team in that position. So it's things like that where it can be frustrating. And yeah, like you feel for the guys. You'll feel for them.
mm,
And the Bull supporters to some degree. You'll feel for them, but. There's a recipe I think there's a winning
yeah.
recipe in South Africa, and the Bulls they need to go and look at the ingredients, you know. Uh, there's some
They're not
there's some
stronger
thing.
together.
Yeah, you understand. So that's why you're going to,
Yeah,
and let's be honest, Hanekom was a big miss as well,
yeah.
But I don't even think, even in that game where Hanekom, when you look back at it, the way that they were getting manhandled, he was going to be one man trying to fight these
But the
things,
thing is, sometimes he's enough. I won't lie. Sometimes he's enough. He's
Yeah.
shown that one man he can be enough. The other part of it
Mm.
was the contesting in the air. You know, Leinster again getting the better of them. So it's on many fronts. It was just disappointing to see that they couldn't break through. And then
Yeah.
on top of that, you've
Yeah.
got the guy making the most meters in Vista. He had to now come off. You've got Papier, who again, like Vessels, Papier has come off. You can say he's better than this guy, better than this guy. But when the heat is on in those moments, all of a sudden the kicks aren't as good. He's being rushed. And for my thing, it
Yeah.
wasn't. It was unimaginative. Just hitting,
Yeah.
hitting, hitting. Nothing's happening. And David
Yeah.
Krill,
And
David Krill, I will say I was impressed somewhat that his tackle fight ability. But I mean, these are guys
yes.
that were spoken up
Yeah.
semi-final as the game breakers. But unfortunately, he couldn't do it on the day.
Couldn't do it on the day. Let's not forget the experienced hand. They had fullback, Vili. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
the
had
cross kick
he
in the
had he had a
22.
shocker. He had a shocker.
Yeah,
He had
yeah,
a shocker. He did. And I mean, look, it's gonna happen, And now all of a sudden, you see, because that's the thing. It's like if Amos getting the heat, he really must also get the heat because you expect better from these guys that are
yeah,
Springboks, and you expect guys, to bring that calmness, that clarity to say, okay, to see what's happening and say, okay, guys, let's try and adjust this thing. Maybe let's
yeah,
do this. Let's put it on the floor, maybe, put those little grubbers on the floor. Let's try to get behind them because
yeah.
try and negate the suffocating defense. Like you said, unimaginative. There wasn't any creativity going on there. Hussen, it just that was a bust.
Did he make the
It
trip? I
was.
didn't see him in Dublin. Did he make the trip? I don't.
Like, and then you got Johannes. You're gonna bring him on when, like,
Yeah, game's
he
over.
couldn't do anything. You know what I mean? It was like it was poor, man. It was sad actually. For the Bulls in a final like that, it was sad.
Yeah,
But that's why I still go back and say the coach got to look at himself. Yeah, you can say the players, whatever. The players. Yes, the players. You don't need any more motivation. It's a final, but
yeah,
also the coaches. It was an opportunity to go make history. You know,
yeah. But they made other kinds of history. Any closing
like,
closing remarks? Closing remarks.
hey, the Blue Bull ate from the floor this weekend. That's all I'm gonna say. They ate from the floor this weekend. They did.
Yeah, I think that's it from us, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for